Thomas Campbell begins by outlining his early career, distinguished by involvement in missile defense, specifically programs originally part of the Strategic Defense Initiative, famously nicknamed Star Wars. Working through the 1980s and into the 1990s, Campbell functioned as a systems engineer within specialized government contractors, applying advanced physics modeling to understand complex technical challenges. His work evolved over time, eventually bridging into consultancy roles with NASA, where he utilized his expertise in creating physics-based computer models to analyze risks in aerospace missions. While at NASA, one of the most notable projects Campbell contributed to was the bird strike risk assessment during the shuttle program's transition to the Ares 1 launch vehicle. This task involved detailed modeling of the probability and impact of collisions between high-speed rockets and avian wildlife. Campbell recounts the immense energy involved, such as a missile colliding with a 4-pound bird at Mach 1.5, which releases energy comparable to that of a cannonball, underscoring the seriousness of this risk for space missions. His computer model took roughly 2 years to develop, successfully correlating previously unexplained shuttle launch failures to probable bird strikes, demonstrating the practical and scientific rigor of his aerospace contributions. Simultaneously with his technical career, Campbell's interest in consciousness research blossomed early on, sparked during his work with U.S. Army Technical Intelligence. Encouraged by a supervisor to investigate out-of-body experiences, OBEs, he was introduced to Robert Monroe's pioneering explorations into consciousness expansion. Monroe's lab became a long-term engagement for Campbell, lasting nearly a decade, in which he and fellow researchers learned to induce and study OBEs under controlled conditions. Campbell discusses how this work was deeply empirical. Participants practiced leaving their physical bodies at will, tested phenomena such as remote viewing, telepathy, and healing, and rigorously sought to validate these experiences beyond subjective interpretation. From his scientific vantage point, Campbell's role was to develop theories explaining how consciousness functions and what limits or abilities it possesses. This pioneering period laid a foundation for his later comprehensive theory, integrating consciousness with physical reality. After retiring from his missile defense position to homeschool his children, Campbell embraced a consulting career that afforded him flexibility and exposure to interesting, complex problems. He explains the nature of consulting in high-tech government sectors, emphasizing that consultants are often called in precisely because in-house teams cannot solve the particular challenge, leading to intellectually stimulating assignments devoid of bureaucratic overload. His experience consulting for NASA and other aerospace entities enriched his understanding of large-scale systems and risk analysis. It also gave him time to reflect on broader questions about reality and consciousness, allowing those domains to mature alongside his technical expertise. Consulting thus became a vehicle not just for career continuation, but for deepening his inquiries into both physical and metaphysical phenomena. The core of the podcast focuses on Campbell's grand integrative framework he terms My Big Toe, Theory of Everything, a comprehensive model uniting consciousness, physics, and metaphysics. Campbell describes the painstaking 3-decade process of iterative research involving variable manipulation in conscious states to tease out how inner experience relates to outer physical phenomena. At its essence, his theory posits that consciousness is fundamental and that the physical universe emerges from it. Contradicting materialistic worldviews, Campbell argues that physical reality is essentially computed information, a probabilistic virtual reality generated by a larger consciousness system. The fundamental arrow of causality runs from consciousness to matter, not the reverse. This innovative perspective allows him to derive key features of quantum mechanics and relativity, such as the observer effect and the invariance of the speed of light, directly from principles of consciousness dynamics. Campbell articulates a striking conceptualization of existence as a vast, interactive virtual reality, a digital simulation rendered by consciousness itself. He compares parallel ideas such as simulation and virtual reality, highlighting that the differences are mainly perceptual labels rather than substantive distinctions. Reality, in this frame, consists of probabilistic data streams fed to individuated units of consciousness, such as ourselves, who interpret these data through their senses and minds. This model also helps explain phenomena like healing and psychic abilities by framing them as manipulations of probability distributions within the simulation. Intent and focused consciousness can shift likelihoods, nudging physical outcomes subtly but meaningfully. Campbell stresses that this is not mystical fantasy, but a logical extension of experimental physics combined with experiential consciousness research, bridging two historically divergent domains. The podcast delves into Campbell's insights on paranormal experiences, such as remote viewing, intuitive knowing, and healing. Campbell shares practical advice on developing these abilities, reinforcing that anyone can learn them through practice, but belief systems and fear often act as obstacles. He recounts successful demonstrations in Seeing Without Eyes and how faith in the possibility greatly affects performance. Healing, in particular, is presented as an approachable starting point for consciousness work. Campbell frames healing as altering probabilities where uncertainty is naturally high, making it comparatively easier to influence than more defined physical phenomena. He also addresses skepticism around such phenomena from the scientific community, explaining that the subjective and variable nature of consciousness experiences challenges traditional scientific methods designed for objective repeatability, demanding new approaches and open-minded inquiry. Campbell explains how My Big Toe synthesizes theological questions with scientific explanation, revealing a unified model that honors the essence of both disciplines. He recounts consulting theologians to compare their descriptions of God's attributes with the characteristics of the larger consciousness system, discovering strong correspondences. This alignment suggests that the concept of God can be understood as the encompassing conscious system, with individual beings as subsystems or avatars. This reinterpretation demystifies dogmatic theology without undermining its spiritual insights. Campbell points out that his theory does not clash with sincere religious belief, but rather grounds spiritual ideas like free will, love, and purpose in a scientifically coherent framework. He emphasizes that the larger consciousness system is natural, not supernatural, evolving through growth and cooperation, much like its individuated parts. A foundational component of Campbell's theory involves affirming free will and time as essential to consciousness and the universe. He critiques deterministic, materialistic paradigms that deny genuine choice, arguing that without free will, consciousness cannot be meaningfully defined. Consciousness requires awareness plus options. Time is the dimension in which choices unfold, making it a necessary aspect of any reality involving conscious agents. Campbell describes these qualities as logically inseparable. Remove one, and the structure collapses. This reframing challenges entrenched scientific dogma and invites an expanded worldview where subjective experience and volition have a primary ontological role. Such a view reconciles quantum indeterminacy, observer effect, and metaphysical interaction within a consistent logical frame. The discussion turns to the evolution of consciousness in individuals and as a collective, emphasizing a nonlinear but steadily accelerating trajectory toward lower entropy, interpreted as greater cooperation, love, and awareness. Campbell situates humanity at an inflection point where technological advances and global connectivity catalyze rapid cultural and spiritual evolution. He notes that evolution is a system striving toward reducing disorder through meaningful interaction and social cooperation. Even setbacks and crises are temporary hurdles within this relentless trajectory. Campbell's model implies that conscious growth, both personal and societal, is the key purpose of existence, with challenges serving as opportunities to ascend to higher states of being. Campbell addresses the association between trauma and enhanced sensitivity to consciousness phenomena. He argues that individuals who endure severe emotional hardship often escape into alternative realities internally, developing heightened intuitive or paranormal abilities as coping mechanisms. Trauma can strip away conventional mental filters, opening pathways to deeper awareness and ultimately spiritual transformation. He references public figures such as Chris Bledsoe as examples of individuals whose challenging life experiences catalyzed remarkable healing capacities and paranormal insights. Campbell stresses that these gifts are available to all, but require intentional cultivation, emotional clearing, and overcoming of fear to fully manifest. Exploring existential questions, Campbell offers observations derived from first-hand experiences guiding consciousness through the death transition. He details how consciousness detaches from the physical avatar and enters a transition reality, an intermediate realm facilitating processing, integration, and preparation for the next incarnational cycle. This stage can be researched directly via mind-to-mind connections with dying individuals. He explains that consciousness frequently re-enters new physical forms once the sensory apparatus is developed enough for interaction. Free will remains paramount, as entities may decline to incarnate in bodies presenting adverse conditions, as in the case of a baby with brain cancer who declined incarnation and whose illness was subsequently healed before another consciousness took its place. Such stories highlight practical aspects of free will, healing, and incarnation within Campbell's virtual reality framework. Finally, Campbell addresses misunderstood phenomena like UFO sightings, abductions, and crop circles within the virtual reality paradigm. He suggests that these events are data stream constructs generated within or by the larger consciousness system for specific purposes, often to nudge humanity's awareness or challenge entrenched beliefs. He emphasizes that fear-based interpretations distort experiences, and that these fear tests serve as gatekeepers for spiritual growth. Campbell believes that while such phenomena may feel real and sometimes produce physical side effects, they originate within consciousness and data manipulation rather than objective alien intervention. This explanation both honors witness accounts and preserves rational coherence.